All right. Oh. Okay. Well, good evening. Is this on? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Nope. Oh, do you want to? Okay, let me just, hello?
Sound guy.
Hi, can you, I don't think this mic is on. Okay, oh, the power of my own voice. Well, good evening, and thank you so much for coming this evening to, this is our first 2026 Church and Society Speaker Series, and I'm very excited to have two people in our community who are powerhouses. And welcome to FUMC Denton. We just extend a warm welcome to all of you. But we have this evening Christie Wood. Christie is a accomplished flautist and stained glass artist and has been in the Denton community for decades. And I met Christie when we did this program a year ago, August. And she came to me and asked if we could do a repeat with an update on new laws that have passed, and anything that might impact us when we're going to the polls later this year, and the continued conversation around the integrity of our voting system in Denton County. And I also had the privilege of working as an election clerk for Christie, who is like primo election judge. She was an incredible mentor, and I learned so much in working for her then. And then she said, well, Jane Scholz would like to join. And Jane is an incredible community activist with an absolute passion for advocating, which she's very effective at, for maintaining voting centers on election day and the option to vote anywhere in Denton County versus having to go to your own precinct. And I've gotten to know Jane a little bit. She's a journalist by profession, retired from that, a world traveler, and just both two incredible people that are going to be presenting this evening. So with that, Christie, I'll welcome you up.
Just FYI, this lecture presentation is being recorded. We hope that. How's this? Is this better? So this lecture presentation is being recorded tonight and should be up on the church's YouTube channel sometime in the near future. For those of you who are not with us in person tonight, but who will be joining us via YouTube. It's a little time slicing. So hello, my name is Christie Wood, and I have been an election judge since 2016. I've worked nonpartisan elections, municipals, party primaries, Denton County, state, and national elections in Denton County. Now, full disclosure, I am no longer an election worker. I am a candidate. So full disclosure, I am a political candidate for a specific party here in town. I am not going to be talking about any of that today. Today is about all my experiences working the election cycle here in Denton County. I find it extremely exciting to work an election. I am an election nerd. I love it. I am very excited about making sure that every person who is qualified to vote actually does get to vote here in Denton County. This presentation will give you a little more insight what goes into what it takes to run an actual election in Denton County. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So most of you are probably experienced voters, and you are what we call the perfect voter. You go in, you've got your ID in hand, you know which location to go to, or the perfect voter goes and votes early, so you can go anywhere in Denton County that has a polling site. You go in, you present your ID, the clerk will then take your ID, scan it, and turn it around and say, is this information correct? If so, please mark here, and then you sign it. Boop, you get your ballot. You say English or Spanish, they print your ballot. You go, you mark your ballot, you put it in the scanner, you leave, everything's A-okay. But there's a few catches that can catch you if you're a new voter in Denton County. So, next slide. So who can actually vote in Denton County on the elections? Number one, you must be a U.S. citizen. Number two, you must be age 18 or older on the election day. So if you have a 17-year-old person who will be 18 by the election day, they will vote. So 17 close to 18, they can vote. You must reside in Denton County. You must not be a convicted felon. Now the next one trips up a lot of people. You must be registered in Denton County at the elections office 30 days prior to the election. Now if you are not registered within the 30 days, your vote will not count. Let's just put it that way. Let's be real frank about the whole situation. So if you moved into, say, I used to live in Collin County and I moved here, and I forgot to change my registration, and it comes election day, and I go, oh, yeah, well, okay, I've got a week, so I can go over and get registered. And then you show up, and bingo, it shows up on our poll pads as, you registered late. There's nothing we can do about it. There's a 30-day wait period in the state of Texas, so be careful about that. Next slide. So, how many people vote in Denton County elections? And thank you, great. We in Denton County have experienced a steady 3% every year increase in our population, and that equals about 90 new people every day move into Denton County. So back in the 2020 election, we had 565,000 registered voters. Right now, as of December 24th of 2025, we're up to 667,000 registered voters, which is an increase of 18% since 2020. And it's just going and going and going. And that's true for most of the North Texas area. Wise County is experiencing a 16% growth every year. It's creeping up from Fort Worth and Dallas and creeping over from Collin County. So Denton is filling in, and it's expanding westward into Wise County. So we have a lot of new population coming in. Next slide. Make sure that you are registered. Now the elections office sends out your voter registration cards. They send them out in January of even numbered years. So this is the year you will get a new voter registration card. I have not received my new one yet. Has anybody received theirs yet? I didn't think so. Yeah, so we'll see, but by law they have to send them out in January of this year. The color of the card may be different, but it will look like this. It's very important that you keep this card. This is a legal form of identification. If you ever lose your IDs with your photo on it, you can still vote with this card. So this is legal, and make sure you treat it as legally as you treat your driver's license. Now, the voter registration lists are evaluated every year. If you have not voted in an election in the past 3 years, you are at risk of being purged from the records. So it's very important that you go and check your voter registration status. Also, recently, there has been a disconnect between the Secretary of State list and some of the county lists. I don't know if you've read about that in the newspapers, but there have been some people who are longtime voters who suddenly are showing up as not being registered. So there are disconnects happening between the state and the county list. I recommend that you double check your own voter registration. And I recommend only one site for doing that, and that's the official Denton County Election Administration site, which is votedenton.gov. Go there, check your own voter registration, make sure you're still on the records. All right, next slide. If you do need to make changes when you receive your new card, double check everything. If you want to change anything on the card, there's a spot on the back. Fill it out and mail it back to the election administration, or hand walk it over to the office. The offices are on Kimberly Drive, right off of Loop 288, and they will correct it and they will send you a new one within 30 days. For simple name changes and address changes, you can now go online to the Texas Secretary of State's website. There's a very simple cross-link from the Denton Vote, denton.gov, where you can correct your address change if you're still within the same county, and that'll take care of things. If you update your driver's license, that does not necessarily translate into it being updated at the elections office. I tell you, I've talked with the election admin people, and they say it's months-long wait between what happens at the driver's license address changes and when they finally get it. And sometimes it gets mailed to a different county and gets lost. So do not trust the driver's license people to change your address. You do it yourself. Go to the Texas Secretary of State website and do it. And just remember, it's got to be within 30 days of an election in order for it to count. Now, I'm throwing out all these different websites and things like that. We have handouts. We have handouts with QR codes for all of these different websites that we're mentioning tonight. So there you go. Just take one as you're leaving tonight. Next slide. So another way you can vote is a ballot by mail. There's been a slight change. You can only request a ballot by mail for yourself now. I used to request one for my mother. The voter has to request the ballot by mail. Also, they would send you the packet you filled out. You can now print that off yourself. If you request it, you can print off, go to the votedenton.gov. There's a place on there where you can request a ballot by mail. It'll pull up a PDF file. It's very simple. You print it off, you fill it out, you send it in. I did one. You just fill it out, fold it, put a stamp on it, send it in. It's very simple. I actually like this idea. However, it's not really good for people who don't own a printer. So there is some drawbacks to that, yes.
The new changes in the way they're processing mail, are you going to address that issue?
Partly.
Is that going
Yeah, because of the time lag in the mail, that's what you're speaking about?
The mail, yeah, the delay.
The time lag in the mail?
They're processing it differently now.
And Ruth, I can ask people who are online, watching online, are not able to hear when we're talking, so Christie, if you need to repeat the question. Or
Okay, Ruth, could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Is this one?
Yeah, thank you.
Just for the folks who are online, I want to be sure.
I just read in the paper last week they are changing the way the mail is processed, and so it's going to, there could be a big, you may mail it, drop it off today, but it may not get anywhere in another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So again, timeline and when you mail it, you're mailing ballots, a big deal because they've changed the way, and I can't explain all the details, I just know it's a big
Yes.
deal.
I can explain that in detail. I know what you're talking about. If you think just by putting it in the mail, by dropping it off at a mail center, that they will stamp it right then, no, not necessarily, because they're now collecting them and then sending them to another location for a group processing, and that may delay the timestamp on the mail by several days. That's the issue that we have. Okay, let me get that one. Yeah, but if you actually hand walk in your registration to the office, that gets processed immediately. If you are unable to walk in to the office, and then here's another big change, you can't have somebody else walk it in for you. It has to be you, the voter, who walks it into the office. So they're making it more difficult to actually get this ballot by mail. So if you wish, now I know my friend Jane does ballot by mail, but if you wish to do your ballot by mail, please do this week. Get it done now so that you have plenty of time before early voting starts. Okay, when you're filling it out, make sure you sign every place it says. Also, when you're filling out your ballot by mail form, it's going to ask you for either your ID, your driver's license, or your social security number. Put both of them in. If you go to the website, votedenton.gov website, and watch the video, they have a very nice video about how to fill out a ballot by mail. They even recommend put both of them in. That pretty much guarantees that if you make a mistake, they'll have some way of looking you up into the system. So put both in. And make sure you sign everywhere you need to sign, including the inside of the envelope. The part where you lick it and fold it over has a place where you need to sign. Yes, Jerry?
I think your slide says only the last four, so you're still mostly.
Yes, the slide says it's just the last four of your social security number. It's not the whole social security number. Okay, next slide. Let's move on. So who actually runs an election? Well, it kind of depends upon the type of election. And we're about to enter an election cycle where the first election of 2026 is a party primary. So most elections are run by the Denton County Election Administration. They own all the equipment, they lease the software, they've got the staff to run it. So basically, election admin does everything for any early voting for any election. However, on party primaries, the parties themselves pay for and run election day. It's rather interesting. So if you're a member of a political party and you are sending them in some donations, that gets pooled and helps pay for the election workers and to run the election on election day for party primaries. That then usually gets sent over to the election administration. They subcontract out. So it's interesting, but it does make a difference. The parties actually run Election Day, so they can make up their own minds about how they want to run the election. On Election Day only, though. Next one. How often are elections scheduled? Now, there's some laws. We know that every 4 years we're going to have a presidential election. So that's that one. And then every 2 years later, we're going to have a big statewide election. And this is this year. It's the big statewide election. Local, city, and municipals and ISDs usually schedule them in the city of Denton for, let's just take that as an example. They like to schedule them on the first Saturday of May. However, there's kind of a push going on right now, and the city of McKinney has recently voted to change that to align it to November so that they don't have to pay for a special election just for municipals. They can sling it in with the rest of the stuff on the November ballot. So we'll see if Denton goes with that as a plan or if they keep it on in May. But for 2026, it's going to be in May. How long early voting lasts for each of these elections is determined usually by the type of election. If you've got a large election like the one coming up in November, or these primaries coming up, right, the party primaries, there'll be 2 weeks of early voting. If it's a smaller election like the runoff, if we have a party runoff, it'll be just 1 week of early voting. Next slide. So here's the schedule for 2026. First one up is a party primary. February 2nd is the cutoff date for that, 30 days in front of the election. You must get registered by February 2nd in order to vote on this May 3rd primary. Yes. Sorry, March.
We will be downstairs and update your vote.
Yeah, let's put this on
The League of Women Voters is here downstairs, and if you need to update anything, your name, your address, anything, we are here to do that for you today.
The next very important date is February 20th. If you're doing your ballot by mail, the office must receive your ballot by mail physically in their hands by the 20th of February. Early voting for the party primaries is the 17th of February through the 27th, and then Election Day is the 3rd of March. And once again, Denton is still precinct-based voting on Election Day. So you can vote anywhere on early voting, but then on Election Day, you must return to your precinct location. Where do you find that? VoteDenton.gov. I'm going to keep replying. VoteDenton.gov. Use that one. The next big election is May the 2nd. That is your municipals, and you're already seeing a lot of signs for this election. It's going to be highly contested. It's the mayor's race, the city council people race, so they're already campaigning for that one. But they don't vote, we don't vote for them until May. So first the party primaries, then the municipals next. Now, I'm predicting, because we have so many candidates for both parties, that we're going to have a very important primary runoff election. And that's going to be May 18 through 22nd, for early voting, and May 26 for Election Day for the runoff elections.
Which is the day after Memorial Day.
Sandy just reminded us it's the day after Memorial Day. So this is going to be, this election on the runoff election is going to be more important to me than the November election, because by then we'll have decided everything that's going to be on the ballot. This is the one that decides who's actually going to be on the ballot in November. Then the big ballot on November 3rd, we're going to have state and county general election, plus there's some federal stuff on there. We'll get to that later, but those are the main dates. October 19th through the 30th is early voting, and then November 3rd for the big election. Yes?
If someone only votes like in a presidential election, and the last one was in 2024, so they should still be eligible. They shouldn't be purged from the rolls then, correct?
That's correct. They should not be purged from the rolls. If it's 3 years or more, there's
Correct.
a good chance you might be purged from the
Okay,
rolls.
so the other one would be if somebody only votes in city elections then, is that going to be, that could be problematic then?
It's if you haven't voted in 3 years, you're at risk.
Okay.
And if you
Regardless.
find that you've been purged, you need to call the election office immediately and get yourself re-registered. It's a simple process to do it, but you have to find out for yourself if you've been purged. It's on you to make sure that you're still registered to vote. It's on the voter. Next slide. Let's run down what's going to be on the ballot. It's a big one. So we got U.S. Senator. I'm talking about for the big November election. But all this starts right now because me as a candidate, we're all running in our party primaries. So we're campaigning right now. We've got the U.S. Senator. We got the U.S. House of Representatives, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, Comptroller of Public Accounts, Commissioner of General Land Office, Commissioner of Agriculture, Railroad Commissioner, which is very misnamed. It should be Energy Commissioner, because that's what the Railroad Commissioner actually runs in Texas. Next slide. We've got some more state offices. There's going to be Texas Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court will be on the ballot. Texas Supreme Court places 2, 7, and 8. And if you don't know these people, you should start doing some research right now to learn who these people are. There's the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and we've got a brand new court that just got organized, 15th Court of Appeals, and we will be asked to vote on them. So they're going to fill in these positions with staggered people coming in one year after another. So for 2026, 3 of those positions will be up for election, and then following, there'll be 4 in 2028, and then all 5 justices will be elected officials instead of appointed by 2029, but it's a whole new Court of Appeals. Next slide. Continue on. More state offices. Board of Education, District 14. It's the one we're going to be voting on. Oh, state representatives for for Denton County, 57, 63, 64, 65, 106. All of those House of Representatives, you're going to be voting on those. Various Court of Appeals justices, various district, criminal district judges. It's a huge ballot. Continuous. There's even more. Next slide. We've got county judge. We're doing commissioners, county commissioners. Precincts 2 and 4 are up for grabs. All 6 justices of the peace. And I'm going to tell you folks, we have had so many people volunteer to run for office this year that all of these races are contested. None of the ones I've talked about are uncontested. They're all contested all the way up and down the whole ticket. So you're going to have to do a lot of research. County clerk. District clerk and county treasurer are an exception. They're running unopposed. The county clerks of law are unopposed. But it's even getting down to precinct level, folks. I've never seen this. I've seen it in rare instances. Usually the Republican Party will have precinct level voting. We're having Democrats at precinct level voting. There's 1 precinct that will have Democrat voting, 33 Republican precinct levels will be voting. So learn who's on the ballot and make your choices. So it's a big year for researching. Next slide. So who pays for elections? Well, your county money, your county taxes pays for this. We have 20 people full-time on staff at the elections office. It used to be 12. Now it's up to 20. Thank you very much. And there are 6 part-time. They own all of the equipment. And all the supplies. They lease the software. They maintain the votedenton.gov website. And the elections office oversees and pays for the training for all of the election workers for all of these elections. Next one. The only exception is the political primaries coming up. And I've already discussed how the money flows from the political parties to the elections office in order to get those people assigned. Other authorities such as ISDs and special water districts, they subcontract with the elections office in order to get them onto a ballot and get them processed. Although I have worked an election out in Justin where a water district said, oh, hell no, we're not going to pay for this. We're going to do it ourselves. And they had paper ballots, and they had to staff it, and they did not publicize where the location was. It was a big disaster. So sometimes snafus do happen, but most of the time people are smart enough to say, let the election people run the elections. Next slide. Who works in election? Obviously, the election administration staff, election workers. There is always a presiding judge, an alternate judge, and at least one clerk, usually 2 to 4 more clerks. Depends upon the size of the election, but legally, there have to be 3 people in the polling location at all times. Obviously, you want more, so you can take bathroom breaks. There's also temporary phone banks going on. There's political parties have election liaison teams. Excuse me. And I have worked as a political liaison officer. We're the ones who actually find the locations and find the people. And we're doing the phone calling, say, can I please get you to work as my clerk? And so those people are not paid. They're volunteers who are doing the election liaison. Also, there will be extra police officers at specific locations who have had some trouble in the past. So we know about those. Next slide. All right, how many people does it take to run an election? I am in touch with the election people. They've estimated they're going to need at least 542 extra people in November. They're anticipating an extra 514 people for poll workers and extra few peace officers. I think that is woefully understaffed. We had 1,200 extra people at the last November election, and we were busy the entire time, so I think their numbers are way off. And I don't think they've included population growth in their figures either. So we shall see. Next slide. They are paid. Election workers are paid. And they changed the laws so that now the pay rate is tied in directly to the salaries for the staff at the county. So anytime the county gets a pay raise, election workers will also get a pay raise. And I applaud that. You know, if you work all of the election, early voting and election day, you can actually get some good money. And there are at least 4 elections this year. So if you have some people you know who need some extra cash, send them to the elections office, because it's a pretty darn good job. Next one. So how much does it cost? There's your figures. Over $2 million it costs to run the November election this past year. They're estimating $825,000 to run this year's November election. Again, I think it's woefully understaffed. I don't think they thought it through. So that's the numbers they're giving me. I say we'll probably be around $2 million again this year. Next slide. The question we get asked most often is, why in the world does my polling location change every time I go vote? I'm at a different place. Well, there's a number of things. Number of locations is determined based upon political boundaries. We've changed political boundaries, haven't we? Yeah, redistricting causes political boundaries to shift and move. They also take into account anticipated voter turnout. So if you've got historically low turnout, like the primary runoff election, they'll probably assign fewer locations to that than they will to November election. So therefore, precincts will be consolidated into one. So the question is, why do they change? Well, it's because boundaries shift and move. Next slide. Also, we're undergoing a huge population boom in Denton, especially West Denton County, and whole new cities are being built and new public buildings are going up as well. So political boundaries will shift as new buildings become available, like the town of Northlake suddenly has a city hall where we can hold elections there now instead of putting everybody in Justin. So those sort of things happen. The other thing is, a lot of times we have to, if you're in a precinct that does not have a public building, let's think the Razor Ranch development. There's no public buildings over there, yet there's a lot of apartments and a lot of people live there, and there's a whole new precinct right there. So we have to lease space at a commercial enterprise, and they can change their minds. If they don't want us there, we have to find someplace new. So it may shift and change. In any case, it's going to be an ADA compliant place. It must follow the law and be ADA compliant. So Texas was redistricted in 2020. We saw a shift of political boundaries. It was redistricted again in 2025. So political boundaries have changed, depends upon where you live. I used to vote for one particular U.S. congressperson, and I'm in a completely different district now. And I didn't move, but my boundary did. Anyway, next slide. So we're going to have between 50 and 60 locations for the March 3rd primaries. So they're going to be all over the place. The anticipated need for Election Day is between 65 and 80 locations per party, because in Denton County, the parties do not share the same polling location. In Wise County, they do. Denton County does not. So we're going to need about between 130 and 160 new locations for just the political primary. Next slide. So what type of ballots? You'll see regular ballots. These are print-on-demand ballots. On Election Day, those turn into precinct-only ballots. Mail-in ballots are acceptable. You must apply every year for mail-in ballots. It used to be you applied once and it was forever. Now, they've also changed the rules slightly. You have to tell them why you are requesting a mail-in ballot now. And if you check the 65 or older and or disabled, then that mail-in will count for the entire year. You'll receive every ballot for the whole year. If you just say, I'm going on vacation a certain time frame, it will only count for that one election. And then you have to show up in person for every other election. Next one. Oh, I'm sorry. Limited ballot, sorry, go back one slide, I'm sorry. Limited ballots, I do want to point this out. We have a lot of people that move to Denton who are from Texas, and they have not changed their voter registration, and they think that they can just come vote anywhere in Texas, particularly like for governor, lieutenant governor, whatever. And so I can't print somebody's from Houston's ballot. I don't know who's in Houston, but we can do what's called a limited ballot, where the things that are in common between the two counties are on a limited ballot. But I and my one little location can't do that, but the election office can. So if you have a friend who needs to vote a limited ballot, they will need to go to the elections office, and that is only available during early voting. It is not available during election day. And if they try voting on election day, I have to give them the fourth option, a provisional ballot. Provisional ballots are for those situations where the judge can't find them in the system or can't figure out a way to do it legally, and the election administration also are kind of shackled by the law. We vote them provisionally, and I'm going to tell you flat out, folks, most provisional ballots do not count. And there's nothing I can do about it. We can try the best we can. We never turn away a voter, ever. I don't even care if they're not a U.S. citizen. They come in to vote, I will vote them provisionally, but I can tell you most of these ballots do not count because they do not fit the laws. And there's a ballot board that is charged with applying all of these rules, and they do an excellent job. But please, vote early and make sure you're registered. Next slide. All right, who can be inside a location? Very few people, actually. 3 election workers, at least, probably more. Active voters and their invited family members. You've got a young one, please bring them in. Show them how voting works. Train them up. You can also bring your own interpreter. You can bring your own assistants if you wish. That is perfectly fine, but once you have scanned that ballot into the scanner, you bye-bye, get out. Because once you're done being a voter, you cannot lollygag around, and you cannot be talking to any other voter while you're inside the polling location. Sometimes we do see poll watchers. Sometimes we do see Secretary of State will send a person over to make sure we're following the laws completely. But those are the only people really allowed inside the voting location. Next. I keep coming back to the voting equipment. I love our system. Denton County has the most secure, the best voting equipment in the state. I love it. It's real-time connected through a secure MiFi network, so we do, get information back and forth. You never hear about Verity equipment in the newspapers because it hasn't been hacked into, not like some of the other ones we've seen. So I'm very confident about the equipment that we use. The most important thing in the room is that scanner. And they all have little thumb drives in them. So when you put it in, it's recording it electronically, but it also, paper ballot goes right into a ballot box, which is then locked. So we have redundancy built into the system, and we're all trained in this, and I love the equipment. Next slide. We don't see this question much anymore. It used to be a problem about cell phone usage, but they've changed the law. Thank goodness, finally somebody said, we use our cell phones everywhere. So you can now use your cell phone all the way up to the door where the room is. So you can be standing out in the hall doing research if you want to on your phone. But once you cross the threshold into the door of the polling location, we'll ask you to silence it and put it away. You can't use it because you cannot record how anybody is marking their ballot, including yourself. You can't record how you marked your ballot. That is against the law, in the Texas legislature stated that, nope, you cannot do that. Some states allow you to do that. They'll actually print you out a copy of how you voted. So we get a lot of voters who are confused because they grew up in a different system. But in Texas, we vote anonymously. Once it goes in, you're done. So we don't get a lot of cell phone problems anymore. Next one. The judge and the alt judge are required to have their cell phones on them in case of emergency, but also because we do curbside voting. And please use curbside voting. If you are unable to come inside, it's very easy for us to take the equipment to you and very safely get you checked in, get you a ballot, you mark it, we scan it for you, and then give you your little "I voted" sticker. So please use the curbside voting. And they text us on our phones when we have a curbside voter. There's a number you can call. You can even make an appointment. So it's very easy to use curbside voting. Next slide. So what happens after close of the day? Oh my gosh. If you are in line at 7 o'clock, you will vote. And we will wait as long as it takes for you to go through that entire ballot so that you can vote securely. But once the last voter has left, everything gets locked down. We go through a set of procedures so that we have a paper trail on everything that happens inside there. Everything is basically padlocked, and there are seals put on them, and we record everything. The judge is responsible for taking all that stuff back to the elections office immediately. Those 4 thumb drives get turned over and they get read into a machine. That's how come we can get information the same night as the election and yet still have all the ballots. So it's a great system. Next slide. It's basically just talking about all the equipment. I'm going to skip that slide. So I think being an election worker is probably something everybody should do at least once in their lifetime. It is a great way to figure out what's going on for real in Denton County. So if you want to be an election worker, here I'm going to direct you back to votedenton.gov. There's a special section called Training and Education. You can sign up to be a poll worker. Also, the Democrat and the Republican parties have websites, and there are places on each website where you can volunteer to be a poll worker, and they will ask you some follow-on questions about where you would like to be located, what days you want to serve, that sort of thing, whether you are interested in being a judge or just a clerk. So each party has those things. If you're an independent, go to the Democratic one, because the election office always sends the Democrats anything that's not Republican. So you can fill it out on the website, and there's a place where it says mark independent or libertarian or whatever. It'll come to the Democrats, I guarantee you. I know this because I worked on the liaison team. So if you're an independent, just go ahead and mark Democrat, because it'll come to us anyway. Okay, next. In closing my section, check your own vote. Next slide, please. Check your own voter registration. Next slide. Thank you. Check your own voter registration. Become a deputy voter registrar. And we've got them downstairs, right?
Yeah.
We
Hold on.
Training. You can train to become a voter registrar this Thursday night at 6 o'clock at the Elections Administration, 701 Kimberly. As she said, back off the loop, behind the palace, I call it, that they built for the county, near the Aldi's.
Okay, so become a deputy voter registrar, become an election worker, volunteer for your choice of political party. I'm telling you, the parties are going to need a lot of volunteers because this is a big election year this year, folks. So think it, and I'm going to turn it over to Jane. She's going to give you some research information.
Okay, thank you, Christie. My name is Jane Scholz, and as Deborah said, I am a retired journalist. Am I up? Okay, how's that? All right. I'm a retired journalist, and here in Denton County, I am a voter registrar. I'm an election worker, and total truth in advertising. I'm also a Democratic precinct chair, but my presentation to you tonight is going to be nonpartisan. Although the second half of it, I am going to talk about political parties, but it's a totally nonpartisan presentation from a point of view anyway. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is how to research political candidates. For 40 years, I was a journalist, and a big part of my job that whole time was covering politics, editing the stories of people who are covering politics. So I know a lot about researching candidate backgrounds, okay? So I'm going to share just a little bit of that with you tonight. Because it's really important when you go to vote that you know who you're voting for. Not a novel concept. Anyway, so here's what we're going to talk about. What and who is on your ballot, the responsibilities of each political office, understanding what issues are important to you, understanding what issues are important to each candidate, understanding a candidate's experience, and finally, what information sources you're using. Your information sources are really important, okay? I'm going to talk about the way I research candidates for myself and the way I've done it when I was actually a working journalist, and I use reliable sources. I don't just look at what a friend posts on Facebook, and I don't just Google and look at what anybody has to say about a candidate. Well, we'll get into that. Okay, next slide. Okay, first of all, what's on the ballot in the next election? Well, Christie's told you what's on the ballot in the upcoming elections, but in general, a good place to go, and I'm going to talk about Ballotpedia because this applies to local elections, and if you were to move to Dallas or leave the state, it also works for you as a site called Ballotpedia. You're going to search for sample ballot lookup tool, enter your address, and then that will show you the date, the subject, the election candidates or ballot questions of the next election in your area. So Ballotpedia is a valuable resource. Also, all the resources I'm going to talk about tonight, or most of them, are free. I'm going to talk about how to reach qualified, reliable information that is free to you, okay? So the next thing you want to know is the responsibilities of the political offices that are on your ballot, because you can't know, a candidate can make you all the promises in the world, but if they're running for an office that has nothing to do with what they're promising you, next slide. There we go. Okay. If they're running for an office that has nothing to do with that, it's useless. So you need to understand the responsibilities of each office. Okay, for federal offices, you're going to look at Ballotpedia. For Texas state offices, I'm going to recommend the Texas Secretary of State's website. And then there's a little more detail here on selecting the recent candidates guide, etc. By the way, we're going to give you, at the end of this session, a link to see this presentation so you can see all of this in detail. Okay, And then you're also going to look at the qualifications to run for each office and important dates for candidates running for office, information about political parties, etc. It's all there on the Texas Secretary of State's website. Next slide. Okay. What about local offices? Well, for the duties of Texas state, county, and city officials, I'm recommending a site called Texapedia. And in the main menu under government, you're going to go to the type of state or county office you want to understand. Could be in the legislative branch, the judicial branch, or some other part of local government. And next slide, that will take you to the responsibility of those offices. Okay, once you know what the responsibilities of the office is, now you need to sort of focus inward and think about, okay, what are the issues that are important to me for that office? So, I suggest make a short list for each office. I'd write it down. That's what I do. And I'd pick 3 issues for each office, okay? You can do as many as you want, but 3 is manageable. So for the President of the United States, for example, your issues might include federal income tax, federal budget, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, foreign relations. For U.S. senators or members of the U.S. House of Representatives, which are on the ballot this year, they might be the same issues. For Texas state officials, those might include sales and property taxes, Medicaid, women's health, voting rules, utility costs, and regulation. But once again, it depends on the office, okay? But you're figuring out what's important to you. Okay, for city and county offices, your important issues might include, once again, property taxes, maintenance of streets and roads, a big deal around here, zoning laws, direct services you receive from the city or the county, and voting rules. This is really important, and we're going to get to this in a minute, because our voting rules are set, some at the federal level, most at the state level, but there are also some rules that are unique to counties in Texas. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Now, for school board members, your issues might include property taxes, the quality and location of public schools in your area, or any other educational issue. Okay, now you know what's important to you. Now you need to find the candidate that is going to fit what you want. So for each candidate, first of all, you want to find out what they say he or they want to do and what their background is. And this is where you're going to start with Mr. Google. So you're going to Google each candidate, you're going to find their website, you're going to see what they say about themselves. Now, it may be true, it may not be true. Just because it's on the internet does not mean it's true, but you know what they're saying about themselves. Look for a Facebook page, look for a Wikipedia page, okay? Save the links, print them out, whatever. Then I would go to social media, not so much to see what other people are saying about this candidate, but what the candidate, him or herself, is saying. Okay? Because somebody can make a claim that so-and-so said such and such, but you really don't care about that. What you want to know is what that candidate said. So look them up on X, look them up on Blue Sky, look them up on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Look up that candidate on each of those social media sites. Facebook and X are probably good places to start and maybe all you need. Okay, then the next step is to see how much of what this person is saying is true. And for that, I'm going to recommend, unless you have a lot of money and you can afford subscriptions to a lot of really expensive publications, that you go to the public library. And you don't have to get in your car and go. You can do this all from home once you have a library card. So for the Denton Public Library, are we in the next slide? Yeah, there we are. Okay. You can go to the website, get yourself a library card, or you go to get yourself a library card, then go to the website, and use your library barcode number as your username to log in. And in the menu, go to Online Library, select Research Tools, News, or from Online Library, select News and Magazines. Now, this is a little complicated. the library has people who will help you for free, okay? And you don't have to go down there to do it. You can do it over the phone, or you can do it over a Zoom call. Now, this is going to give you access to articles from a wide range of reliable publications, and you may need to log into some of these sources individually. Once again, if you need help, call the library. But this is going to be reliable information, okay? Now, some of those expensive subscription sources that you can get through that library that are really good for looking up Texas candidates are the Dallas Morning News, the Austin American Statesman, the Houston Chronicle, and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. For Denton County, there's the Denton Record Chronicle, if you don't subscribe yourself. Now, free sources, the Texas Tribune is a free source, which is great. Next slide. Okay, I've got to remember to say next slide. The Texas Tribune is a great free source, and KERA is also a wonderful free source of information about Texas candidates. So you're going to go there, look up your candidate, see if what's reported about them is what they've said about themselves. What? Oh, okay. That's another good one.
Wait on.
League of Women Voters runs vote411.org, completely nonpartisan, and candidates fill out their questionnaires. It's in their own words. And that should be available about the beginning of February.
As
We've got buttons and stickers downstairs so you can remember what it is. Vote411.org. Right, and we'll have vote, that's right. Stickler mentioned, we'll have print guides at the beginning of February that we'll be giving out. We've ordered 4,000 because each year we keep having to up the number and we wind up giving them all away. If you know good places to distribute them, let us know.
And I'm going to tell you from a candidate's point of view, I am filling out my League of Women Voters questionnaire right now, and I got to do my video. Thank you. I have to do another video. So that's going to be, I think your cutoff date is the 22nd, so that you can have those printed ones in time for February. Okay.
Okay, all free sources. Okay, next slide. All right, so you've done all your research, and you know what your issues are, and there's a particular candidate whose office is responsible for something that's important to you, but that candidate has not said anything about that issue. So what are you going to do about it? Okay? Well, if the candidate has not addressed one or more of your important issues, you should call them. You should email them or go to a rally or town hall and ask them. Why? Because they are asking for something very valuable from you, and that is your vote. And you deserve to be told what their position is on this issue that's important to you. They may or may not agree with you, but they deserve to tell you. You deserve to have them tell you where they stand. And once again, if they won't respond to you, they're probably not a candidate you should support. Okay? Finally, and next slide, after you do your research, don't forget to vote. And I've given you some dates on the party primaries, the city and school board, and the general election, which Christie has already given you. Okay, now we're going to move on to a little pet project of mine. Next slide. And this is an issue that I hope you will consider when you are deciding who to vote for in the county commission races, in the primaries this spring and this fall. Okay, so this issue concerns countywide election day voting. And so for a while now, I've been going around the county and I've been telling people to tell our county commission to protect your right to vote on election day with safe, secure countywide voting. I'm also circulating an online petition. You can see the URL for it right there, asking the same thing. Okay, I'm going to give you a brief explanation of what this is about. Christie has kind of touched on it. But here's the problem. Next slide. Got to remember to say next slide. Okay, every election day in Denton County, 10 to 15% of the legally registered voters who show up to vote are told that, by law, they can't vote in the polling place where they've showed up. Now, those are valid numbers. We have been measuring them in one way or another for the last 5 elections. So 10 to 15% of the people who vote on or try to vote on election day in Denton County get turned away. These are legally registered voters, okay? They are sent to another polling place that may be miles away, and we don't know how many actually vote, although we do have a sense that at least 20%, maybe as many as 30%, do not vote, okay, as a result of this. Once again, these are legally registered voters who are being denied the right to vote on election day. Next slide. Now, this happens on every election day. It happens in primaries, it happens in runoffs, it happens in general elections, city, county, and school board elections, and it happens in every part of the county. Okay? It happens in Denton, it happens in Justin, all over the county. It happens to Republicans, it happens to Democrats, it happens to independents. In these last 5 elections, when we have been counting this, this has happened to more than 20,000 legally registered voters in our county, at least once, okay? It could happen to you, and maybe it already has. Is there anybody here who's ever been turned away on election day because they showed up at the wrong polling place? I've got 1 person, 2, 3, 4. Anybody know anybody this has happened to? Okay, a lot more hands go up. Okay, this is not an uncommon thing, okay? So, this doesn't happen during early voting. Next slide. Yes, it doesn't happen during early voting when everyone can vote at any polling place in our county. And it does not happen in 100 other counties in Texas, including our neighbors Dallas, Tarrant, and Collin, that have countywide election day voting, also known as vote centers. Next slide. Okay, why is this a problem? Well, what we have on election day, you're assigned to a home precinct based on where you live. That can change from one election to the next. Christie explained to you why. And you may not be told the polling place is being changed. There may be a polling place that you voted at for years. Suddenly it's no longer a polling place. You're not told about it. You show up at 6:30 p.m. on election night. It's too late to go where you were supposed to go. But you're a legally registered voter. Okay, and your assigned polling place may not be the closest polling place to where you live. It may not be the easiest for you to get to, and it's probably not close to where you work or where you go to school or where your kids go to school. Next slide. So you're probably scratching your head and you're saying, well, I thought we could vote anywhere in the county now. And the answer is yes, you can during early voting, but not on election day. So next slide. Is this because of an election security issue? The truth? No, it is not. Christie told you we have a very secure election system in Denton County. If you remember, when she talked about all the equipment that was there, the bottom of the list, there was something called a MiFi, okay? What that means is whenever a ballot is issued to you at one polling place, that ballot, not what's on it, but the fact that you got a ballot, is registered in the central office. That is what stops you from going from one polling place to the next and voting over and over and over during early voting, okay? So there's no reason not to do the same thing on election day, regardless of what anyone tells you. Next slide. So what are vote centers? So when we have vote centers, registered voters can vote in any polling place in their county on election day. They use the same equipment and procedures as on the last day of early voting. Now, already 100 counties with 85% of Texas voters have vote centers. Next slide. So 9 out of 10 of the largest counties in Texas have vote centers. So what is the one county of those 10 that does not have election day vote centers? Yes, our county. Okay. Now, the slide says no county with vote centers has gone back to assigned poll voting on election day, and the Republican Party is about to prove me wrong in 2 counties, Dallas County and Williamson County, for this primary election only on election day, are going back to precinct-based voting, okay? And they're doing this in counties that have had countywide election day voting for years. So, all these people who are used to voting anywhere in the county on any voting day are suddenly going to show up on election day at the place to vote that's near where they work or where they pick up their kids from school, and they are not going to be able to vote, and they are not going to be happy, okay? So I have a feeling this may not happen again, but we'll see. Did you have a question?
Why are they going back to precinct voting?
Okay. Why are they doing this? Well, that is a really good question. And, you know, it might just be craziness. There is, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody in this room, a lot of suspicion in the Republican Party about fraud, election fraud, okay? And I think you should be careful about, you know, election rules, and you should be concerned about election fraud. We don't want election fraud. But the truth is that the Republican Party has been in power in Texas for something like 30 years, and they've been in control in our county for about that same period of time. They bought this election system, they wrote the rules, and so, you know, if there's fraud, they're the ones that created it. But the truth is, for in-person voting in Denton County, fraud is just extremely, extremely rare, okay? When I've talked to people in the elections office about when, if they can recall this happening, they can't remember it. We just, the election system is just that secure, okay? Because you have to have valid ID, so that's one check, and then because the system records every time a person's issued a ballot, you can't vote multiple times. But nonetheless, they're going to try this, so we shall see. Next slide. Okay, so what's happening now? The people who make the decision about this are our county commissioners. There are 5 of them, and they are all Republicans. Now, this is where we get into talking about politics, all right? I have to talk about politics because the laws in Texas that govern our elections are written with politics in mind. But we have 5 county commissioners who are all Republicans. They say they can't act because the political parties can't agree on how they would hold primary elections on election day. But that is not true. A politician is not telling us the truth. The truth is that the chair of the Democratic Party here in Denton County is ready to agree to countywide election day voting tomorrow, and has been for a long time. The Republican Party chair, however, refuses to agree. And finally, the commissioners could go ahead and implement countywide election day voting for every election except primaries, which is most of the elections we hold, without the agreement of the political parties. So this is all a smokescreen to not take action, okay? All right, next slide. So what can you do? Well, you can tell our commissioners to do their job and protect your right to vote on Election Day. You can only vote for candidates for the county judge or the commission seats who support countywide Election Day voting. This would be in the March GOP and Democratic primaries. Well, actually, there's no Democrats on the ballot in the primary for the county commission seats. But in the March GOP primary and in the November election.
There are Democratic candidates who will appear on the ballot. They're just not opposed.
They're not opposed, that's
in
true.
the primary.
That's true. They're not opposed in the primary. But there is opposition in the GOP primary for commission seats. So, what should you do about this? Well, next slide. Okay, so these are the decision makers. The three people at the top with the big red square around them are the county judge, Andy Eads, Precinct 2 Commissioner Kevin Falconer. This is basically the Carrollton area. I doubt that anybody here lives in Carrollton. And Precinct number 4, which includes big parts of Denton, and the commissioner is Diane Edmondson, okay? So how many of you know which commission precinct you're in? Okay, how many of you are in Precinct 4? Diane Edmondson is your commissioner, okay. All right, so you should know that of the 5 commissioners, Diane Edmondson is the most fervently opposed to countywide Election Day voting, okay? And we don't have a lot of time left tonight, so I'm not going to go into why, but she's asking for your vote, so I think you should ask her, all right? So if you go to votingcentersnow.org, next slide, take action. There's a list of actions that you can take to contact your county commissioners and tell them you want countywide Election Day voting. And there's contact information for them to get in touch with Diane Edmondson and Andy Eads, the judge, who's also going to be on your ballot, and ask them why they don't support it. Tell them you want it. Ask them why they're not voting for it. Okay? And that's everything I have to say. Oh, yeah, okay. And there's the QR code for the entire presentation. Everything Christie said, everything I said. So if you want to hold on to that, take a picture of that QR code, and you will have it in your hot little hands. Thank you.
All right. Any other, I think we were able to stop for the most part and get some questions as we were going through. And I see a whole lot of cameras up there getting that QR code, Jane. So any other questions for, yes, Doug?
That QR code on the handout sheet.
Ooh.
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay, the QR code is not on the handout sheet? Okay, and Christie is going to come around with the handouts for all of the orgs, and I want to thank both Christie and Jane for their time this evening and getting us up to speed on where we are with our election process. I'm going to say a couple of more things. Researching your candidates. When I worked as a clerk, while Christie was an election judge, the number of people who came in, and it was a big ballot during the national election, people who came in who had no notes with them and didn't realize they couldn't use their phone while they were in the... You can take a written piece of paper, you can take a ballot, you can print off a ballot and fill that ballot out and take that in with you to vote, so that you're not standing there trying to figure out who is this person.
Yeah, we highly...
Who should I vote for?
Is this on? No. We highly encourage that you bring in paper when you come in to vote, so that you have a list and you can get in and out very quickly and not have to go outside and do your research and come back in, because that means we have to spoil a ballot. Yes, hold on.
How many pages do you think the ballot will actually be this year?
I think okay, don't be surprised when you go into your political party primary that it is a 2 or 3 page ballot, because not only is this a historically large number of people who have volunteered to become candidates, so there's going to be a lot of people on the ballot, but there's also going to be a lot of propositions on both sides. So I'm anticipating like 2 or 3 pages, even in the party primaries. And in November, it's going to be large. You may see 4 or 5 or 6 pages.
I was just going to say, yeah, those propositions, they're called propositions, but they are not like law. This is another confusing term in Texas. They are to inform the party platform, and people mistakenly think that they're going to be, because the same term is used when we do pass the propositions in the odd-numbered years in November. But the other thing is, they're just going to give you a little blurb, and you're not going to know exactly what that means. So it's go to your county party website or the state party website and find out what those propositions, so-called propositions, are for your party, and read up on them ahead of time, so you're not having to, again, stand there and read through and try to figure out what they mean.
I have a question for you. It's about the League of Women Voters newsletter or election guide.
Yeah.
And you said there were going to be 4,000 copies printed. Where might one find one of those printed copies?
We'll have them here at we usually put those out on our tables in the foyer of our church, and then where else? In the library?
In the libraries? Yeah. Okay.
All 3 branches of the library.
Many other places.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have a Denton vote group also, and we will have printed, I think, are we? We're going to have printed, and we also have a lot of information. We register voters, and also, you know, we have lots of information, lots of education for people who...
The community market.
So they're at the community market, Denton Community Market. All the high schools, so they'll be in multiple locations.
And I've got a question. That's in Spanish also, available in Spanish, yes. So it's both the English and Spanish versions are available.
I do want to say one more thing in terms of voting in the primary. We typically have, 6 to 8% of that total number of registered voters that vote in primaries. I think it's maybe 6 or 8%. Primaries can be determined by as few as about 90 votes. So I would encourage, a lot of people don't, 2 votes. Some have been won by 2 votes. So a lot of times people think, well, I'll just wait. I'll just wait until, after the primaries and see who's on the ballot. But I'm going to encourage everyone and tell your friends, go out and vote in the primaries.
Apologies for a potentially extremely ignorant question, but you have to be a member of that party or registered as a member?
No, in Texas you do not. We have we don't have declared, you do not have to declare what party you're in order to vote, but there is a rule that says if you vote in a particular party's primary, you cannot then switch parties during the runoff election. So let's say you decide to vote Republican for the primary, you will then only be allowed to vote in the Republican primary runoff election. But then, so it's kind of hybrid. You don't declare, and every year it resets. So yes, we can switch our party's allegiance at will in Texas, for now. There are some people who are thinking that's a bad idea,
and we'll see if the laws get changed. But for right now, you can choose whichever party you want for the primary, but then the runoff election, you have to stick with that party. And I am telling you that both parties are encouraging people to not switch their allegiances, thinking that their vote would help, put in somebody. Just stick with your own principled decisions. If you typically vote Democrat, please just vote in the Democratic primary. If you typically vote Republican, please vote in the Republican primary. So switching votes really works.
Okay, one more, Dikla, one more comment, and then.
If you vote, say for example, in the primary as a Democrat, can you switch in the general election?
Absolutely. We are Americans and we vote for whoever the hell we want.
Okay.
I have one last thing to add about voting in the primary, okay, and why it's important. And this is for both political parties, okay? Higher political turnout or higher voter turnout in a primary is a big indicator of voter enthusiasm for candidates, and it is a major driver of funding coming to those candidates in the general election. So, if it's really important to you that the candidates of a particular political party are going to win in November, voting for that political party in the primary in February and March is really important. That applies to both political parties.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank again Jane and Christie for a fabulous evening. Thank you both. And how can they get your presentation? It's the QR code.
It's the QR code right
Perfect.
there.
All right, and thank you all for coming out this evening to hear Jane and Christie. Contact your commissioner, voting centers, yay, and vote in the primary. Thank you again.